fly back in October. Yeah, 6 months later, right?
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Glad to have you here for our Chatham Area Transit Authority, April the 19th meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order and roll call, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Chairman McCaggis.
Here.
Dr. Thomas. Here. Mr. Brown.
Here.
Mr. Dawson.
Here.
Mr. Durant.
Here.
Mr. French.
Here.
Mr. Holmes.
Here.
Mr. Madoff.
Here.
Ms. Stone. Present. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
We start the meeting off this morning with public hearings for the Chatham Area Transit Authority, and we have a message that we have to give to hold this particular meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, this hearing is being held in compliance with state law relative to Chatham Area Transit Authority's proposal fiscal year 2016 to 2017 budget. Information packets showing the proposed budgets are available at the front entrance. A list is being passed around asking for the names and addresses of those present. The purpose of this is to document that public input was solicited for future audit purposes. Katz, Chief Financial Officer, will now present the first reading of the fiscal year 2016-2017 budget.
Good morning.
Good morning, Terry.
In your package under tab 3 is both the proposed budget for our operating fund and also for our capital fund. You can see that we're all presenting revenues of $21.7 million and expenditures of $21.7 million. So the presentation of the operating fund represents a balanced budget. Currently, staff is in the process of meeting with the county on our paratransit budget, and we're also working on operator wages, mechanic wages, and administrative staff wages as directed by the board. So those totals could possibly change as we walk through the budget adoption process. We will hold additional public meetings, and this budget will come back to the board at a future meeting for another reading and also adoption. So there's plenty of times for questions and also for adjustments. I don't expect material adjustments from these numbers if all three of those categories don't change, but if all three of those categories change, the amount of adjustment could be material, and we will need to discuss the changes. The capital budget is on the second page. This budget is more like a program of projects. So you'll see the federal grant assistance and local match available for our current program of projects, and it also results in a balanced budget. So if there are any questions now, I'll be happy to take those.
Any questions?
What's the three areas that you mentioned in the wages?
We're working with the county on a paratransit budget. Paratransit continues to increase significantly month over month and year over year, so that number might change. The operator and mechanic wages, while they are contractual by the union bargaining agreement, they're also based on service levels. So as we define and clarify exactly what our service level is going to be, those two will change. We're also working on the administrative staff, FTE, and salary analysis. So out of that analysis could come some adjustments. So it's operator wages, mechanic wages, and then the general and administrative wages based on the results of that analysis.
And material? You mentioned this.
Material changes. An accountant would look at 1 to 3% of the total as material. And if all of these numbers change, it could quite possibly reach that number. We could have a change of 100,000 up or down in any of those categories. So you're looking at a budget that might change as much as $300,000 in the next 30 to 45 days.
Terry, when you get the analysis finally done on payroll for the operators and paratransit.
Mhm.
Could you show it to us in some detail?
Um,
Because I'm still struggling with this increase in the wages on the operator side, which go quite a bit up, and then the wages in paratransit, which go quite a bit down.
Right, the
So-
wages on paratransit go down mainly because there's a contracted service piece. So part of the overflow of the paratransit service is by a contracted vendor, and theoretically that takes the place of some of the wages. And that
Okay.
wasn't in place last year at budget time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that it's correct, but I would feel better
Yes, sir, yes,
that
sir.
you bring me the actual analysis to how you get to, especially the operators.
Yes,
for
sir.
the
So
fixed
it
hour.
would be the service model
Yeah.
that calculates the total wages. Yes, sir.
Okay. Helen?
I see that you're putting in 43,000 for the, bike share. Are we showing any profit on that now?
The revenue that comes in is split
No, I'm
between,
talking about the expenditures,
on the capital.
on the proposed budget capital, yes.
Right, this 43,000 represents the remaining grant funding for expansion. So, that's why it's in the program of projects, because we have grant funding right now.
Okay, so it's not expenditures that we're putting out to subsidize the program at this time?
Right, on the capital budget, basically, the grant funding plus the local match is totals what we plan on expending over the year. So there won't be any kind of additional cost that will hit the operating fund.
Okay,
As
so that
far-
just, it seemed like it was starting out doing really well, and then the last time I heard, it wasn't, so I just wanted to make sure that it was a program that wasn't costing us money to operate.
So total revenues for the bike share are running about 30,000 a year. We split those with the city who provided the Ellis Square location. And we are covering the maintenance costs with the revenue
But are
that
we
comes to
putting
CAP.
any out-of-pocket expenses into this?
That's not covered by the revenue that we
So
receive.
yes, we are?
We actually have maintenance costs associated with the bike share when a bike breaks down or the station malfunctions.
And that is not covered by the fees that we're receiving for these bike rentals?
Yes, ma'am, it is covered by the revenue. The revenue is, in total, covers the cost of maintaining the bikes.
I just want to make sure it wasn't anything out of our operating budget that was going in there that was not balancing out by the rental fees.
Correct, it is balanced out.
Okay, that's what I'm.
Any other questions from our board? Okay, now we will, to hear anybody that's in the room, we will start at the right side of the room and go row by row. If you wish to speak, please stand, state your name, address, and the name of the group or organization you represent, if any. We have staff available to help pass out any written material to the board members. We would ask that you be brief and concise in your remarks, since we have a number of people that may want to speak, and we want everyone to have an equal chance to be heard this morning. All right, I'll start on my right. Anybody on the first row here would like to speak? The first row. The second row. Anybody on the second row would like to speak? Anybody in the room who would like to speak for this public hearing? All right, well, thank you. And now we will go to our next item. Go ahead, James.
Before you leave from there, when we do the public hearing, we do the press, notify the Savannah Morning News for what I read in here. Where else does that information go to?
We actually post the proposed budget on our website, and we have copies available at both the Transit Center and Cat Central if someone wants to pick up a copy and review it.
There are two papers that I'm concerned about. That in community very strong. And these are Savannah Herald
Mhm.
Tribune.
Mhm.
Can they be added to that list so this can be the right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can add the advertisement for the public meeting that we'll hold in
Yes.
May, and also for the second reading at our May meeting.
Mhm.
We can advertise that in all three publications.
Appreciate it.
Okay, next item is the approval of minutes for the March 22nd, 2016 board meeting. Everybody was given those particular minutes of the meeting, and are there any corrections or additional to those minutes? Any?
Make a motion for approval.
Second?
Okay, all in favor of approval of the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item is approved. Next is action items. Number 1, RFP Occupational Health Services.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Request the board approval to issue a request for proposals or RFP for occupational health services. This RFP seeks professional services to support the daily occupational medical needs of CAT and its employees.
Okay.
So this is just the approval to send out the RFP.
Yes, ma'am.
Make a motion for approval.
Second?
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. RFP Professional Security Services.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Request an RFP for professional security services. Currently, CAT has security services at the Joe Marie Rivers Transit Center, as well as our CAT Central location in Gwinnett. The contract is due for renewal, so we want to put an RFP for that.
Any questions? Helen?
So the RFP goes out, is advertised, so you're not just taking the bid of the existing organization, correct?
Correct. It's for anybody who wants to.
Okay, need a motion on the floor.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion on the floor to approve the professional security services. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Security service approved. IFB, City Hall Ferry Dock Repair and Rehabilitation. Curtis?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Request board approval to issue an IFB for ferry passenger dock repair and rehabilitation. Seeking bids from qualified vendors experienced in maritime construction, heavy civil rehabilitation work in order to procure needed repair and rehabilitation services for the City Hall landing dock as part of the Savannah River ferry system. To note, the grant funding for the FTA is available to cover 80% of this project, and the remaining 20% is the local match provided by the Trade Center.
Okay, so the way the funding's coming in, it won't cost us anything.
That's correct.
Okay. Any questions?
I just have, I'm sorry.
I have one too, but you can go ahead.
Yeah, what is the difference between an RFP and an IFB?
You want to go ahead, Terry?
It's different types of services require a different type of proposal. An RFP allows qualitative points to count in the judge criteria.
Right.
An IFB would be used when a specific price can be given by a vendor, and you can choose the award based specifically on price. So
Okay.
with an IFB, you don't have an evaluation committee, you don't have a recommendation, you go with the lowest bidder.
I see. Okay. Thank you. That's helpful.
Need a motion on the floor.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Is this located in, it says landing in City Hall, so is this on city property?
Yes.
The landside dock is on city property. This is dealing partially with that, but also with the floating dock, which is now owned by CAT. At one time it was owned by the Trade Center, and one time before that it was owned by the city. but it's now owned by Cat.
But the trade center is going to pick up the part that the grant does not cover. So, why? I mean, I'm just,
Well, the Trade Center has the responsibility, primary responsibility for operating or providing the ferry system. Cat provide or furnishes the system under contract to the Trade Center. The Trade Center finds it in their best interest to have
no,
a way to
I'm
get
just,
rights
I
to
mean,
the
I
island.
was just curious that if this was on the Savannah side, you know, why that the trade center would be covering the cost that the grant didn't cover. So,
They need some place to embark to arrive at Hudson Island on the other side.
I got you. Okay. Just interesting.
Need a motion on the floor.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is this
Yeah.
related to the other work that's being done at the, right down behind City Hall, the loading area, the covered space that's being done now?
Well, they're, and Curtis, you can correct me on this, but they're providing a shelter down there and an aesthetic improvement to the land.
The city's doing that, or?
Yes.
Okay. So these are only just coincidental that they're both happening in the same space? And financially coincidental?
Right. In the case of this dock, the dock needed repair.
Need a motion on the floor.
So moved.
Second?
Have a motion on the floor and a second for the City Hall Ferry Dock repair and rehabilitation. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next is RFP on call professional services. Curtis?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Request the board approval to issue a request for proposal for on-call professional services to support project management, environmental services, general planning, and general engineering services. We had a contract that was awarded in June of 2012, and it's up for renewal, so we're with the RFP out.
Any questions?
So-
Motion.
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead,
just have one
Bill.
question. So does a single entity, so do we contract with a single entity for this, or do multiple entities?
Multiple entities.
Okay. So there were several contracts
Yes.
that were issued in 2012?
Yes, that are on that list. And everything's based on task order, so it's on call until we request them to do so.
Okay.
We have a list of those?
Of the current ones?
Yes.
Yes, we do.
We do.
We don't have it in here, but we can get you the listing. Go
How
ahead,
many,
Terry.
We-
how large is that list?
We have 6 currently under contract, and there are 2 project management teams, an engineering firm, an environmental services firm, and a marketing firm. And these were all procured in 2012. The FTA requires you to rebid contracts every 3 to 5 years.
Mhm.
So they're in that age frame, and it's time to rebid these on-call services.
There's
So
a timeframe of when these should be reviewed?
every 3 to 5 years is the FTA recommendation.
And the list that you have, Curtis, has grown,
The list is what she just said.
You see.
So 6.
No, I just asked. It's not just what she said. You said you could get me a list.
The list of
Right.
current contractors.
Right.
Yes, we can provide that list. It's the names.
Okay, that's the
that-
list.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And I'm sorry.
No,
Get you.
go ahead.
When these bids come in, will we be asked to, I know y'all will review them and give us scores and that sort of thing, and then we'll be asked to approve them?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then once we've got either the current list or the new list of those different providers of services, is there no overlap between those services? So whatever task comes up that you need in service, you know specifically which.
Right,
vendor to
so
go
for
to.
engineering, it would be Thomas and Hutton, and so we would call them, and we would issue a task order, but then he would approve it, so it would.
So any particular job, then we still approve the cost of that
Specific
job.
jobs, yes.
Any other questions?
Who are the 6? You said we have 6 current contractors. Who are they? Thompson, Hutton?
Project management, we have a contract for M Momentum, which provided a lot of the IT support services when we were building these two facilities. Public Management Development is another project management firm we have under contract. RS&H for marketing services, Arrowwood for environmental, and Thomas & Hutton for engineering.
Okay, have a motion on the floor, second. All in favor, signify.
Was there a motion?
Move to approve.
Yeah, I thought somebody just,
I don't think there was
a motion.
Okay.
I just move to approve.
Second.
have a motion on the floor now. And let's vote on it. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Next item, fiscal year 2016 grant applications submissions. Curtis?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Request board to approve the submission of grant applications in the Federal Transportation Administration, or FTA's FY16 round of funding. CAT will develop and submit grant applications under eligible formula and competitive programs. As you can see below, there are different ones that we were looking at to applying for under the new Fixing America's Surface Transportation Act that was signed into law in December 2015.
Make a motion for approval.
Second?
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. And the last item under action items is insurance renewal for fleet, property, and workman's compensation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Here to inform the board of the upcoming renewal of multiple insurance lines, including general liability, auto liability, workers' compensation, and seek approval to bind coverage.
Helen?
And just since we were just talking about all these RFPs, I assume this was put out for bid.
I'm sorry.
Was this put out for bid?
The one we're on right now?
Yes.
Nothing, no. I mean, since I've been here.
Is there a reason that we put everything else out for bid, but we don't our insurance?
In 2013, we hired Seacrest through a competitive bid, and it is on the list. It's rolling into that 3 to 5 year
Okay,
renewal
I mean,
frame.
I'm just asking the question. We've just gone
Yes,
through
ma'am.
all
So
this
we're
discussion
under
of
current
RFPs.
contract, right?
Yes.
And so we're still under current contract with Seacrest.
Yes, ma'am.
And at what time, at some point, that will come up?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
And
I'm just
it will
asking.
probably be in future months
Next
as
year or two, yes.
Yeah. But not it. I understand, but that was just, we just finished discussing all these RFPs, and then we're gonna, I just wanna make sure we were in compliance with our own.
Yes, ma'am.
Right.
Any other questions? Okay, we need a motion on the floor for the insurance renewable for fleet, property, and workman's compensation.
Are they gonna
I
give
do
a
have just one
presentation?
question. I'm sorry, if you don't mind. I noticed that we have decreases in our premiums in every area except in business automobile. And is there a reason for that, or? I'm sure there is.
Would we want to go ahead and do the presentation?
Yeah, we can do the presentation before we vote.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Come back to that. Vote on it after.
Yeah, do the presentation first, then we'll come back.
You're coming back now?
Yeah,
I'll
after
go
we'll
do
do
the
the
presentation now.
Do the presentation first, yes, sir. Right now.
Okay. Let's have the presentation now for that item.
And I think hi, I'm Cindy Robinette with Seacrest Partners, and appreciate the opportunity to present and hopefully answer some of these questions. While Erica is getting this up on the screen, I have some other team members with me, Jenny Osaka and Cliff McCurry. And Seacrest Partners is engaged to, as CAT's broker, to go out and solicit bids on the insurance. So the good news is we did go out and solicited multiple bids from various insurance companies on the property and casualty insurance, and we'll walk through that.
Okay.
And as I go through, please stop me if you have any questions. See if I can make this work. Ooh. No, you didn't do that. Okay. get us there? Okay. All right, just, I guess as a general overview of the property casualty market in general, very favorable conditions overall, good underwriting results, so we're in a positive market, and the outlook is expected to continue for the foreseeable future, absent any major catastrophe losses. Quite a bit of capacity in the market. We are seeing some consolidation of major insurers into mega insurers, and sometimes that doesn't always bode well for the buyer, less competition, but right now we are in a good market. We are seeing some rising claim frequency in certain lines, not just for Chatham Area Transit, but overall in the auto and workers' compensations. So rates are creeping up in those areas, and we'll talk about how that impacts us in a moment. We're also seeing some increases in, you can't open the newspaper without a data breach and cyber liability coming up there. So that's an area of the market that's increasing. And then we're seeing new products being offered as well, terrorism-like products, and we'll talk about our recommendations there as we go through the presentation. You got it? Okay, great. Good news on the market, on the property insurance. We were able to send this out to a number of insurance carriers and achieve a decrease in premium on the property, as well as a reduction in the deductible for windstorm. There was a 2% of values deductible, and we were able to cut that in half to 1%, so we're very pleased with that renewal. We also had a separate policy called an inland marine policy, which was placed for the intelligent transit system as well as the bikes and others. We were able to eliminate that policy and incorporate that into the property for an additional $2,700 in savings. So every little bit counts, but overall, very good result on the property. And there you'll see the values from 2015 to 16. The values went up, the inland marine values stayed the same, but the premium went down, you know, after incorporating the inland marine policy into the property, about a 5% reduction. So we consider that a good result. And you'll see the different insurance carriers that bid on the program. Axis was the most competitive, and that's where we are recommending the renewal be placed. The next is the casualty, the general liability, and the auto liability. The market is stable, but we are seeing some adverse development and losses in CAT, particularly in the 2014 years, had some significant loss activity. So overall, on the auto liability, about a 10% increase in premium from the prior year. The general liability remained flat, but there was some loss activity, and so that increase is strictly driven by losses. I'll go to the next one. These are the different carriers that were bidding on the program. The current insurer, RLI, which was on your program now, still remained offering the most favorable terms. They have a $25,000 deductible on the liability. Many of the other carriers wanted significantly higher deductibles, and the pricing was not as competitive. So we're recommending that you remain with RLI on the auto and the general liability. And there are the premium dollars from 2015 to 2016, and at the bottom you'll see that broken down into the liability and physical damage. And there were losses on both the liability and the physical damage side that were driving that premium increase. As far as workers' compensation is concerned, market again stable. We are somewhat limited in the number of carriers, insurance companies that will bid, because they all like to see 5 years of loss information. They say 3 to 5. We're getting to the point where we almost have 3 full years. So we did have some additional insurers to look at the account that have not looked at it in the past. But the incumbent insurer, Amerisure, remained the most competitive. The premium did go down slightly by about 3%. Some of that was payroll driven because there is loss activity on the account. The experience modification factor did increase from last year to this year by about 40%, and that's largely just the 2014 year with some loss activity there. Loss activity for the 2015 year is favorable, so the trends are good.
the loss activity that Viola holds, are we ever gonna get that?
They've not been willing to share that information.
Ever?
We have no indication they're willing to share it. It'll be less important the further we go out, though, because we'll have our own
Right.
data.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's not that we're unwilling to give any information.
Oh, yeah, Kat's willing to get the information, and it's been, that's not been a problem at all. It's been the Veolia. Fortunately, we were able to get it that first year,
Yeah.
to be able to get bids at all.
Yeah.
But then, the second year, they wouldn't give us anything. So,
Huh.
So on the workman's comp, this is based on our 2015 salary levels?
the workers' comp renewal would be based on the projected salary starting May 15th, 2016 to 2017.
Well, Terry, is that right? Because you're saying that the salaries are going to decrease, but everything you're showing us in the budget?
Theoretically, it doesn't make sense. The numbers we transferred for the FY15 salary numbers. Take a look at that.
And there you'll see several of the insurance carriers that we went to for bids. And you'll see the premium from last year to this year. And again, about a 3% reduction. This is the deductible premium. There is a $300,000 deductible on this program for each claim. So the losses are not included in those dollars. That's the claims handling administrative and the cost for the insurance above the $300,000.
Is that the same deductible?
Yes.
As the previous year?
We didn't change it at all. Okay. Let's see. That, I apologize, it's a little bit hard to see, but you'll see each program, the expiring premium and the renewal premium. So overall, about a 6% increase. And while we don't like to deliver increases, based on some of the loss activity, particularly in the auto, we think that's a very good result. Other coverage considerations, we've mentioned these in the past, just to consider that insurance is not procured for at this time. Information security and privacy liability, data breach. This would be a breach of personal financial information, credit card information, where CAT would be required to notify and offer credit monitoring and could be held liable for a privacy breach. There is an insurance product that would offer coverage that you could consider. We've mentioned higher excess or umbrella limits in the past. Those are always available in the marketplace. Crime or employee dishonesty coverage, something we've recommended in the past, to theft coverage, including we're seeing an increase in claims of wire fraud, fraudulent structures, cyber type theft. And then the last is a growing market for terrorism coverage, including chemical and biological attacks. Very sad that we're having to look at this, but you do have several components to terrorism. One is what's called TRIPA or TRIA, the federal backstop for terrorism, and that would provide coverage if there is a certified act of the federal government or that certifies terrorism, and your property insurance carrier would then pay the claim, and they have a federal backstop if you bought that coverage. Right now, the CAT does not buy any terrorism coverage.
Oh, go ahead.
Right now, we have none of the information in privacy security.
That's correct.
As we eventually have the app for people to use for service, depending on what level of personal information they have to provide to use that app, is that going to create a liability?
That's a growing exposure, yes. That's correct. Something to definitely consider.
Okay, how about, so the crime, employee dishonesty coverage, we don't have that now?
No, sir.
Okay. But you getting information for some of these things to bring back to us?
We have sent applications in for the privacy, liability, and the crime, I believe, and we're just waiting on getting that back. Yes.
I know there's a couple policies that renew outside of this term.
Yes.
And one of them is the directors and officers, and it was my understanding that there was a piece of that that dealt with staff as far as the dishonesty coverage.
Not on the dishonesty side. On the directors and officers, you may be thinking of the employment practices liability, which would cover claims for discrimination, wrongful termination, harassment, those types.
So it's employer as opposed to covering the employee acts on that policy.
That's correct.
Okay.
I might have mentioned at least one position, if not two, are required under the Enabling Act to be bonded too.
Yes.
And just in terms of the D&O coverage that you were talking about, that's not included in this, what we're talking
Okay,
about
that
today.
renews at a different time.
Okay, okay.
And my second question was on the workers' comp. I don't think it was on this presentation, but the letter of credit increased $100,000. Was that an administrative increase that we could negotiate? It was $200 last year.
Yeah, I think it's because of the claim activity, the letter of credit. Yeah, we can certainly go back and talk to them about that. And largely it's those claims in that 2014 year.
Aside from you obviously wanting to sell more insurance, do you have in any case, do you have any recommendations about this, what our growing liability might be on any of these things?
Yeah, I think as you continue to collect personal financial information, credit card data, that the privacy and security liability is certainly something to consider. And while the prices are going up, it's not necessarily a huge expenditure. So I would encourage the completion of that application so that we can get quotes for you all to consider. That's definitely important. And certainly we're seeing increased activity on the crime, not only employee dishonesty, but also fraudulent structures, wires coming in, hacking of emails, and wire fraud instructions, that type of stuff. So, certainly looking at the internal control practices, but also a backstop of some crime cover.
Any other questions? Anything else? That's it?
That's it.
Okay.
Thank
Now,
you very
some of
much.
these questions that were asked, like the dishonesty and others, since we don't have that, you're going to continue to try to get that information, because we want to make sure that once we get the quote, you get the quote, let us know, and you get it from more than one location, right?
Absolutely. We'll get multiple quotes. We'll simply follow up to get those applications back. And once we get the applications back, we'll send those to the various insurance companies and come back with multiple quotes for you to consider.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Need a motion?
Okay, need a motion?
Information.
What are you doing? So it's actually.
I make a motion for approval.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. That's the last of the action items that have been printed. And now we have a presentation for the property and casualty insurance. Oh, yeah.
You want to do it again?
Be happy to.
Yeah, we wanted to see how quick y'all were. Okay.
That's good.
Next is the executives, directors report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Fixed rate ridership was about flat, almost 0.1% decrease for February year over year. Our fare box recovery ratio was at 17.95 for the average for the year, which is above our 17.7 budget. Our complaints were about in half compared to last year, and our trending for the year is about half. We had the same number of accidents as we did last year, but our yearly trending is under from last year. Our paratransit complaints are about seven less than last year, and our trending is more than half, a lot less than last year. Our preventable accidents for paratransit still trends at 0 for this year, and we did have 2 employee injuries, but our yearly trend is still less than last year. We flip the page and look at the summary report. Our passengers per revenue hour is still above our target range at 20. Excuse me. Our gross cost per revenue mile is at $6.15 as opposed to our target, which is $6.85. Our preventable accidents, 1.16, is still trending under the 2.0 target. And then if you just skip down one more to the mean distance between vehicle failures, see that it's 12,564 miles, and our target is equal or greater than 12,000. You'll notice that that number continues to approach 12,000 because as the fleet gets older, we have more failures. So just something to keep an eye on. Our on-time performance for the year is at 85%, and our goal is 90. This past month, we were at 86%, which is the highest since I've been here. So that trend continues to go up. It's a positive sign. Our legislative update is included in your packet. The state one is actually on tab 13, and then the federal one is a separate attachment on the table. And just reiterate that I sent out that we were informed that we received the award of a passenger ferry discretionary grant amount of $713,280 to continue the safe operation of our ferry system by being able to rehabilitate all 3 ferries, our oldest ferries, which is great news. It was a competitive grant, so it's nice to see that we won it. That's all I have for you.
Any questions for our director? Okay, next system development update. Nick?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you'll turn to the system development update page in your packet, I'll highlight everything we've been working on over the last month. Under marketing communication, you'll see that staff attended the March Downtown Business Association luncheon and had an opportunity to network and hear from Kevin Klinkenberg of SDRA. On the outreach front, one thing that's noteworthy is March was Women's History Month, and we were able to highlight the history of female bus operators here at Chatham Area Transit. Miss Jackie Hunter here, who was the first bus operator, was highlighted and featured in several publications. If you'll switch over to the second page, the mobility services, our recertification for paratransit riders continues, and we work with our customers to make sure they're all still eligible to use that service. And finally, on the planning front, on your last page of the report, main core activity for currently is working on the bus and bus facilities grant. This is a competitive grant that will allow us to potentially procure new buses, paratransit vehicles, and much needed equipment for our shops. So, and amongst other potential awards. So that grant is under development and was mentioned in an earlier board report. Thank you.
Any questions for Nick? Okay. Financial update, Terry?
The financial update is in your package. It contains a listing of revenues and expenditures for the month and year to date. You can see that total revenues are over expenditures both month to date and year to date, but slightly behind budget. As the operating assistance we're receiving from the FTA continues to contribute to that deficit, we should see a turnaround by year end and be a couple of $100,000 better than budget. Projection shows us about $260 better than budget at June 30th. I can answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for Terry? Any questions? Okay, that was a lot of work you did put into this budget and all of that. And if everybody went looking through all of these things, you can see it was quite a bit of information coming in. Of course, some of our members, some of our board members, like Howard, want to make sure what we do, or any board member, that they get additional information or whatever it is, Terry, that will help out. Please get that.
I can bring the wage model to the May meeting and walk everybody through how we calculate the total wages per service level. And I also have the detailed schedules that I can provide to any board member that wants to look at the budget at a sub-account level. And if you have any questions, just email me or give me a call, and I can get those answers to you.
Okay. Next, new business,
We have old business.
old business.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Beverly, we're gonna have a handout for everybody in respect to, locations, venues, costs, and stuff related to the Charleston visit. The board can review that, and then we can circle back and get everybody's opinion on that. Thank you.
That's what I said.
What happened with working with the chamber?
We're still working on that. We wanted to point out what venues we had, and we did some research, and just as far as ongoing, updating this project.
Okay. All right. Any questions on this for the meeting and all? You know, it was sent out to everybody, quite a bit of information, and of course some of those, and the reason for getting that additional information, there might be some state agency that might be, you know, could be involved and assist us in one of the programs or something like that. So now that our particular meeting, we need a motion to adjourn.
Just before we adjourn, I have one more question. We skipped over the summary of the different routes.
Okay.
With the passengers. Curtis, on page 3. I think it's on tab 14.
I have a question about that too.
So we have generally the percentage of changes minus 0.1%. But there's a lot of these rides or these routes that are down actually quite a bit.
I'm sorry.
Because a lot of the routes are down quite a bit, 3%, 6%.
Especially on page 4.
Especially on page 4. Do you have a handle yet on what's happening with the routes that are going down? At one point you addressed it as possibly a nationwide trend against transit. Have you been able to do any more analysis of what's going on?
We have no conclusion at this time. We're continuing to monitor and analyze, but we don't have a specific conclusion at this time to get the board. We'll certainly keep working on that.
I mean, I agree with Mr. French here. I mean, we're looking at negative numbers of 15%, 12%, 6%, and on the Prowler, 144%. I mean, with the technology that we have today, it would seem that we could have a better handle on what's really going on here. I mean, if it's nationwide, I understand it, and if it's the lower gas prices, I understand it, but if our fare box recovery is down, you know, how do we convince the public that this is worthwhile running an organization like this if this ridership isn't showing any increases? I mean, I want to be fair about this. This is a little concerning to me.
We can certainly break it down in more detail and drill down and come back to the board.
Yeah, there's also an interesting, you know, maybe there's sort of a population shift or work location shift or something, because some of these things like East Savannah are going up dramatically, so it seems like we have a lot going down and some are going up. So something seems like is going on with our ridership that I think we need to understand.
Sure.
To adjust ourselves accordingly.
And I know that, I know you have to look at trends over a long period of time in order to get a real understanding, and when you drop or change a schedule or a bus route or something like that, you know, that can have ramifications throughout the system. So obviously, we need to be really careful about any steps we take in reaction to this, but these swings are pretty extreme on some of the routes. And I think the suggestion that we may be actually seeing some work / population shifts that are resulting in this is something we really need to pay attention to.
Yes, sir.
It's been going on now for several months. And
Right,
this is
and
not,
that's why.
This is not new.
Right, I mean, that's why when you say you have to drill down, well, I think after, I know I've been asking about the, number 14 Express for 2 or 3 months. I don't know at what point we can't acquire data that's sufficient to say we have a problem here.
Yeah, we've changed that route a number of times and it's still struggling, so that's something we need to look at, possibly ending, stop supporting it, because every time we've changed it to improve it, it's not panned out.
I'm just concerned as to, you know, it only verifies the comments of people in the community that say we don't see anybody on the buses. And at some point, you know, we're running a huge organization here. Is this really serving the public? Are we filling our mandate? And I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the question becomes, you know, for the routes that have really low ridership, would our buses and particularly the people who staff them, you know, be better used on these really heavily used routes, those that are showing increases in ridership, than on routes that, you know, persistently underperform?
So, just get with your staff then, so that you can get all of this information as soon as you can. Some of it might take just a little longer, but with that, maybe the staff and you can, you know, put some other effort in there to see about how, if it's possible, that it can be addressed.
Yes, sir.
Curtis, do you have everything in place to give you the information so you can bring it back to us?
Everything in place, well, I mean, we're a little short-staffed, and obviously, it'll take a little time, but I think we can certainly get something to you and work towards the goal of finding out why this is happening. There's different variables going on, as you know. One of the things that we decided to do last year was to stop changing our service every 3 months. When we did a new shift change, we usually change our service a little bit every time, and so we decided to wait a whole year so we can let things smooth out and be consistent. We want to compare apples to apples, but yeah, I mean, we can certainly by the next time we meet have more information regarding this.
Because it also, you know, ties back to our budget and our service hours and our driver's salaries.
Absolutely.
So the whole thing is connected. And this goes back, Terry, I think, to why I keep bothering you about this operator wage thing.
Yes, sir.
Because you had your union increase, and we're talking about this increase in service hours based on a model. But then we're seeing a lot of decrease in ridership on certain routes. So the whole thing is tied together. I don't want any surprises to get us as we get into the budget season, in the budget year.
That service level number is the one that drives
Drives
the
everything.
calculation. Yes, sir.
And I want to make sure we don't have an inflated service level.
Okay.
Go back to this for a second.
Yeah, you want to go to
The system meeting, I guess I'm a little concerned about how rapidly we're approaching this date, and we don't seem to have any kind of specific plans. What is the plan on committing to something?
Well, one of the things is the chamber to get the chamber involved, because this particular project,
I understand that, but we talked about that a month ago, and we still don't have an answer.
Yeah, well, what I'll do then today is I'll talk to the president over there, because some of the staff people have been talking and haven't got what we need to know right away. They've got a huge staff over there, and so I will advise everybody as soon as I talk to him on that, because they've done a lot of these projects before, not this one, but others that the chamber has done, and I'll ask and see about pushing the button to get as much information and what they'll be able to do with this particular project. Now, the list that we distributed to everybody too is that we will start with a message going delivered to all of the people that the board now has been in favor of. We'll get that out as within the next week or so, and then what we'll also do is see if the chamber is going to proceed. I've talked to some of our staff people about that, and just what was said earlier today, that they're waiting to get the answer from them, and I'll talk to Bill this afternoon. Yes.
I agree with what Bill was saying, that we've got to have the chamber on board, and I'm concerned that they do not understand what this is about. That this is not about taxing West Chatham. This is about increasing CAT's span. This is about regional development. This is about economic development.
Right.
And if we don't have the chamber on board, then I don't see a whole lot of purpose in bringing this gentleman here. I mean, this, after sitting through this with Mr. French in Denver, this is a community project. This is not elected officials. And if they're not going to be players in this, y'all, we're wasting our time. I'll just say that.
I agree with that, Mr. Chairman. I think Ms. Stone is right on target with that. It's about time that the chamber become players, not only in selected certain things, but Chatham Area Transit is very important to this community, and I think we need to have all entities a part of it as possible.
And what I'll do also, besides me talking to him, I'll ask that Howard and Helen, over there, because they can actually, since they were there and saw what occurred, that they have more information. And Howard's been talking to Sis, a good bit about certain things, and that can be brought out also with his contacts that he has made with Charles.
I guess I'm still concerned about exactly what steps are going to be taken, because we're still saying we're going to talk to the chamber and try to get them on board, and I agree that we definitely need them participating, but if they say no, then what happens? Do we just tell Mr. Sis, don't come, or are we going to do something? Because we've got 5 weeks before this date.
Right.
And that's, the invitation should be out now, or within the next few days, or something like that, if we're going to have real participation in this. This isn't something that can take another 2 to 3 weeks to happen, if we want this to have any real impact. And to segue very unsmoothly to the list that you sent out, there are a number of errors on that list that somebody needs to be going through and checking as well. The email address, just the things I noticed very quickly, the email address for myself and for Julian is wrong, the city email address. And I just noticed that we need to confirm who the elected officials are in the other municipalities to make sure they're accurate, because there's at least one that isn't. And and I'd have to dig deeper to figure out which one it is, but I just know that Ashley Brown, who's one of our Metro police officers, was elected to council, and I can't remember if it's Garden City. I should know this, and I'm embarrassed that I don't, but one of the western municipalities, and he wasn't listed in the list anywhere, so it concerns me that the listing of the officials we've got on there isn't accurate. That's something that needs to be checked out, to be thoroughly vetted. And that's going to take another 2 or 3 days to happen. So there's a lot of work that needs to get done in the next week for this to happen, if it's going to happen.
Howard?
Another comment on the chamber. I mean, while I agree with everybody that the chamber needs to be on board and they should be on board, and we would surely like them to partner with us. But the other way to look at this is maybe if they don't want to be on board, maybe having Charles Sisk come and give this speech and give the presentation in front of the Savannah Morning News and whoever else comes, the elected officials and the people that we invite, that may be the catalyst to push the chamber to come on board when they see the economic potential of this. I mean, somehow it has to start. And I think it's going to take a match to get it to begin. I mean, I share Helen's concern. We need the chamber. But maybe this could be a spark to get the chamber on board and say, wow, there is something here.
Well, but I would hate for them to miss this opportunity to learn about what we learned in Denver. And that's my concern, because how many times can you bring somebody like Charles Sisk here to really go through it? And if you remember, it took, almost 10 years to get this going in Denver, because the first time failed. They didn't have everybody on board. And that's why I think it's so important to get this right, because we're looking at a project that's going to be at least 10 years out, at a minimum.
And my bringing this up actually has less to do with whether or not the chamber participates than the fact that we're on a deadline. If this is going to happen, it needs to start happening in a week. Whatever we do, whether the chamber participates or not, whatever we do, I mean, we need to have invitations ready to go out in a week. We need to have a location confirmed. This is something that's just, if we're serious about this, this is something that's dragging out that needs to start happening now. Real action needs to start happening right now.
Okay. We'll get it done. All right, any other questions? Okay, need that motion to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, meeting adjourned.